The scary truth behind the Golden State Warriors signing Rudy Gay. Now, as you all know, the Warriors have officially announced that they have signed Rudy Gay to a contract and he is going to be playing in a Warriors uniform next season. In today's video, we're going to be going through the different reasons how this affects the Golden State Warriors roster and how this affects the rest of the NBA while the Warriors try to chase another NBA championship. So make sure to like this video, and guys, 92% of you are still not subscribed to the channel, so it'd mean the world if you could subscribe to the channel, hit that red button down below. The first thing I did want to talk about is the signing of Rudy Gay. So as you all know, Rudy Gay was signed to the Golden State Warriors, and I think this is honestly such a great pickup, especially for what the Warriors are trying to build. As you all know, Rudy Gay stands at 6'8", 250 pounds, and is 37 years old. Now, although he is a little bit on the older side, I do believe he can still give a lot to any NBA team, and that is something that the Warriors need. They don't need a superstar that can give you 30, 35 points. They need someone that can come off the bench, really provide that scoring that is needed, but also play great defense, and I think that's what Rudy Gay does best. Now, in his most recent season, Rudy Gay actually played for the Utah Jazz, where he averaged 5.2 points, 2.9 rebounds, and 1 assist, while also averaging an effective field goal percentage of 48%. So he did a fantastic job there. And you also do got to remember he was only averaging around 14 minutes per game, so not a lot there. But something that doesn't show up on the stat sheet is definitely his defensive abilities. Now, Rudy Gay, I see myself as a two-way player, and I think a lot of NBA players do so, and I think that's one of the reasons why the Warriors picked him up. As you all know, the Warriors have definitely a preference when it comes to their role players being two-way players, and that's one of the reasons why Rudy Gay was eventually signed. He can provide that offense if needed, but on top of anything, he can play great defense, and I think that is something that Rudy Gay can definitely give to this team, especially due to the fact that he is an older player. He definitely has that veteran experience that can definitely be translated into the younger guys that are definitely coming up. But when it comes to Rudy Gay as a player, I think he can definitely provide a lot, especially due to the fact that he is 6'8". He also does provide a lot of height that the Warriors did not have last season. As you all know, Kevon Looney and Draymond Green were some of the tallest players in the Warriors roster, and they really struggled against taller teams such as the Los Angeles Lakers, with Draymond being only 6'6" and Kevon Looney just above that. So when it comes to them getting more taller players such as Dario Saric, now such as Rudy Gay, I think it really does help the team out even further, especially on the defensive side of things, to have a couple of taller players that can definitely provide a lot more and can guard any position if necessary. The second is that Rudy Gay complements Chris Paul's game very well. Now, this is something that is super interesting because, as you all know, it's still up in the air whether CP3 will be starting, as Steve Kerr mentioned before, but most recently has mentioned that he may be into that six-man role. So whether he's coming off the bench, I do believe Chris Paul will play a lot of minutes with Rudy Gay, and I think it will complement both of those games. As you all know, CP3 is not only a great scorer, averaging 13.9 points last season, which I think was great, especially with the team with Devin Booker and also DeAndre Ayton and all of that sorts, but on top of that, he is a great facilitator and can definitely bring the best out of a lot of different players. We definitely saw that with DeAndre Ayton. Ayton wasn't considered a great player until Chris Paul got there, and he definitely showed DeAndre Ayton what it takes to be great and also how to even complement his game. And I think CP3 and Rudy Gay will also be that same duo, especially if they do come off the bench. I think Rudy Gay is going to get a good amount of minutes, around 14 to 15 minutes per game. That's what we could expect from him. And on top of that, CP3 would definitely be, helping run the offense for that starting lineup, but also for that second unit. As you all know, they did trade Jordan Poole to get CP3, but a big caveat for that trade was definitely due to the fact that they did get CP3, they lost their main scorer off the bench, which was definitely Jordan Poole. Rudy Gay can definitely be a scorer at times. He's got a great shot on him, whether it's a mid-range or three-point. He can definitely knock it down, and on top of that, he has great inside finishing as well. So with all those things being said, I think CP3 is definitely going to be unlocked when it comes to playing alongside Rudy Gay, and also vice versa. This is Chris Paul's last hope on actually winning an NBA championship, and I think he's going to give it his all. He's a 9-time All Defensive Player, NBA's 75th anniversary team member. He's also 11-time All NBA. The list really does go on and on when it comes to CP3, but that ring is the one that is just left. And I think him and also Rudy Gay have a big role when it comes to helping that second unit become even better, because that is definitely where the Warriors struggled last season. The third is that Rudy Gay could be a great trade asset if they decide to break up the Stars next season. Now, as you all know, with the new season coming up, the Warriors do have a couple of players that they are watching closely and that are on the chopping block if the Warriors team that they have created this offseason does not work out. Chris Paul's contract is almost up, so they do have him for one season. They also have Jonathan Kuminga, who they were trying to trade this offseason season but didn't end up happening. So in the middle of next season, there could be some sort of speculation. If he doesn't do so well, he may get traded off. And also same with Klay Thompson. He hasn't signed his extension just yet. They do want to keep him, but they are going to see how the season plays out in order to see whether they are going to keep him. So with all these things being into consideration, you got 4 big players that could be traded off if the Warriors did not like what they created this offseason, and some of those players could be traded for another somewhat superstar. Now, a star that has been mentioned to be rumored if they were deciding to trade them, whether it was Klay, Chris Paul, Kuminga, Rudy Gay, or even all together, was actually Mikal Bridges. Now, Mikal Bridges definitely has a great ceiling when it comes to his game, but on top of this, he isn't just a superstar just yet. He left the Phoenix Suns to go join Brooklyn Nets. However, when it came to Brooklyn Nets, he did only play half the season there, but he did a fantastic job. Now, during that season, he did average 20.1 points, 4.4 rebounds, and 3.3 assists. But when it came to playing with just Brooklyn alone, since last season he was traded midway, he was averaging 26 points, 4.5 rebounds, and 2.7 assists. So you definitely see the discrepancy in his numbers, and you definitely see that he can be a star player if given the right opportunity. And this could be a player, since his value isn't completely there as an absolute superstar, where they could get him for very cheap. Now, Bridges is still a young guy at 27 years old. He's also 6'6", 209 pounds, and he can definitely give a lot to the Warriors team and can definitely provide a lot of length on defense and also on offense as well. He is a two-way player, which is even better, and I do believe Bridges could be a great addition if the Warriors decide to break them up. But I do believe having Rudy Gay as a great trade asset could definitely help and persuade other teams if they were willing to trade some of their low-key stars, and I think that's one of the reasons why they did get someone like a big name like Rudy Gay, just in case that day does happen. So the Warriors team right now definitely have a lot of great assets that if it doesn't work out, they can definitely trade them at a whims and actually get a great player from them. The fourth is that Rudy Gay can provide a lot of veteran experience to Jonathan Kuminga. Now, as you all know, Jonathan Kuminga stands at 6'8", 210 pounds and is 20 years old, and this is very similar to Rudy Gay's stature, who stands at 6'8" and also 250 pounds. So he is a little bit heavier, but when it comes to Kuminga and also Rudy Gay, I definitely see a lot of similarities within their game. Now, Andrew Wiggins has been a great leader when it comes to teaching Jonathan Kuminga, as they do play very similar as well, but they definitely could use another guy with even more veteran experience, and that is where Rudy Gay comes in. Kuminga is still a very young player, like we mentioned, at 20 years old, but I do believe if given the right opportunity and the right sort of development, he could be an all-out star. He has the athleticism for it, he has the defensive instincts, and also has the offensive game to back it up. In the most recent season, he averaged 9.9 points, 3.4 rebounds, and 1.9 assists, while also averaging 20 minutes of game time. Now, this was also great to see that he was averaging a 3-point percentage of 37% and an effective field goal percentage of 58% as well. With Andre Iguodala not re-signing with the Golden State Warriors and calling it quits, I do believe they could use that wing sort of veteran that can definitely teach them a thing or two, and Rudy Gay can definitely be that guy. And yes, Rudy Gay may not be the same player he was before, but at the peak, Rudy Gay was definitely considered a great player, and he was definitely considered one of the best in his teams when he played for certain teams such as Sacramento, Toronto, all these other big names and big teams, and especially even Memphis. So he definitely had himself a great career, and although he may be only getting 10 to 15 minutes per game, he can definitely teach Jonathan Kuminga a thing or two on how to play more of a mature type basketball, which is what the Warriors definitely want out of him in order to have him stay in this roster. The fifth is that since they signed Rudy Gay for such a cheap price, they can still get one more free agent. Now, they can still get a proper free agent, and someone that has been rumored to be that next player is actually none other than Bismack Biyombo. As you all know, Dwight Howard was supposed to be signed by the Golden State Warriors, but they didn't end up going through with them. Now, although that door isn't closed just yet, it does seem that they do want to get a center, a big man in their roster in order, or just in case someone like Dario Saric has to sit out a couple of games, or even their other big men. And Bismack Biyombo is another great pick due to the fact that Chris Paul has played with Bismack in the past, and it probably was recommended by CP3 to get someone like Bismack on the team. They would have to get him for just a minimum contract, which is also great to see. But on top of that, Biyombo last season actually averaged 4.3 points, 2.8 assists and also 4.3 rebounds. So he did a fantastic job for the Phoenix Suns and also playing alongside CP3, and that could also be a great fit due to the fact that CP3 has already played with him before, and also Dario Saric. So when it comes to these three teaming up again but now in a Warriors uniform, I think it would be great. You know, they've all played with each other before, and it makes it even that much easier to get everyone on the right chemistry and on the right value when it comes to out there on the floor. So I do believe Bismack can still give a lot to this league even at 31 years of age. People think he is a lot older, but guys, he's still somewhat a young guy, and at 6'8", 255 pounds, he can definitely play that center power forward position if needed, which I think is great for what the Warriors are trying to do. As you all know, they have gotten a lot of big players and a lot of different names in this year's roster, but when it comes to building the right roster, they definitely need a lot more team chemistry since it's going to be their first time playing, and no better than getting players that have played together in the past. So I think adding Bismack with Saric and Chris Paul could be a great matchup, and now giving that Rudy Gay has a cheaper contract, it can definitely allow this to happen.